His name is Evgeniy Kharam, and he is a cybersecurity expert. We're going to have a good 45 minutes here to chat with my friend, and he's done a lot of stuff in cyber. I mean, I'm going to have him go through his history. He does podcasts too. He does. He's a CISO. I mean, what doesn't he do is probably the easiest answer. But Evgeniy, tell me what's going on. Give me a bit of your background. How did you get here?
I'll do. So first of all, happy to be here. I think you're doing an amazing job. You have so many different guests. You're doing so many different things. You're just complaining how many things I'm doing. You're doing much more than me, but we'll try to unveil a bit what I'm doing as well. So I've been around for around 20 years. I actually started my career in the Navy, in a different Navy in Israel.
Mm.
After the Navy for 5 years, I joined a company called Checkpoints, a small vendor in cybersecurity.
Mm.
And I actually did QA for firewalls. So I tested how firewalls supposed to be working for almost 2 years. And then I moved to Canada. And for me, in my mind, when I moved to Canada, everybody should know how to debug the firewall, how to open everything, understand how everything is working. Apparently not. So it was a big revelation for me that what I know and what I did for 2 years, like every day, is not really common when people just working and doing rules. Almost in the way when you drive the car, you don't really know, need to understand everything in the engine. So it was a bit of a transformation for me to adapt on what need to be done. But I joined a company called Horjovic Group during this time, Robert Horjovic, Dragon Den Shark Tank, when the company was still small. And my role was to went to customers and deploy checkpoint firewalls, upgrade checkpoint firewalls. With time, I was responsible on a team of we call it professional services people that need to go and deploy a variety of tools. With time, I was responsible on several teams, so network security, endpoint security, a bit of cloud, SIEM, logging, and I had this opportunity to kind of almost touch each technology and understand how each technology is working. It was very, very interesting. And because in the beginning the company was small, I did the pre-sales, I did the implementation, I did the project management in the beginning. Of course, later on, we had dedicated people to do project management, some dedicated pre-sales, but I stayed in a pre-sales role. So all my career, I did a lot of pre-sales because I knew how everything is working. I went deeply to architecture and got almost fascinated about connected infrastructure. Like I wanted to have an architecture for the customers where tools can talk to each other, where there's going to be a synergy between tools. Because it was driving me nuts when people will buy a software, a hardware, and not able to deploy it because of kind of incompatibility with the rest of the network, because somebody didn't do due diligence, somebody didn't check how this shiny toy will work later on. So this was 16 years of my life on a variety of role. I graduated from Horjovic Group, now called Cyderis, last year as a VP of architecture, and kind of spread my wings and started to do a lot of different things. I have two podcasts, one with my friend Dimitri, Security Architecture, second called Cyber Inspiration. One is very technical, one is about inspiration of founders to start the company, so more storytelling.
Mm.
Me and my friend Tony started a conference, Ski and Snowboard Cybersecurity Conference, to basically check the idea of, I call it soft skills, I'll explain later why, that if we bring people that share the love for cyber and share the love for snow, we'll bring them some food and a beer. We don't need to do anything else. We just need to sit down and enjoy the moment and not interfere. And it was absolutely true. People had an amazing time, amazing conversation, amazing friendship. We're doing this again end of February, expecting around 220 people. Already have 140 registered, so this is great. And the validation of the soft skills led me to the other idea to actually write a book. So I'm right now in a kind of half part to writing a book about soft skills in technical sales because I believe it's became different to connect to people over digital media, over Zoom, Teams, wherever it is. It's not the same as you and me going to be in the same room doing the stuff. So there is kind of a tidbits of what I'm doing. I'm also consulting to MSSPs and VARs. So a lot of different sprinkles of stuff.
Well, we've got a lot to talk about, my friend. So first thing is I want to know is what's Robert Herjavec like? What's he like as a leader or as a company? What kind of culture you've got over there?
Robert Herjavec is an interesting person because he is a true salesperson. Everybody you talk will may agree or disagree on his personality, but from the sales perspective, we all learn from Robert of ABC always be closing, how you always understand, how you adapt to the other person. So if you go to the room and everybody in the suit and ties, you in a suit and tie. But if everybody in jeans, then you kind of need to adapt to the people, not level, just what people expect for you to be. So it was always interesting to see from Robert about his way to connect to people. And I learned a lot. His way to understand business, his way to build a company. He's not an easy person, don't get me wrong. He built an empire by himself without taking money from outside,
Mhm.
but he did it. He built a successful company for 18 years before he sold part of it right now. So it was definitely very inspiring to work under Robert. Also, it was always interesting because where else you gonna have a CEO that can be on a TV show every day? Where else you have a CEO racing on cars and bringing people to the events? And I had an interesting opportunity. I do a bit of photography, just as a hobby. I was actually following Robert for a year, 2012, and taking all his pictures as part of the racing part. And we bringing customers. It was very, very interesting. Definitely a lot of things to learn from Robert.
Mhm.
Well, he's a businessman, so he can be harsh. Don't get me wrong.
Mhm.
He can be very harsh. He can be very demanding. He understands sales. He understands that if the company doesn't sell, there's going to be no money in the company to feed everybody else.
Of course, and it's interesting because we see him, on TV, and what a great marketing gig, right? You've got a company, and the publicity is literally free, and so you're driving, awareness 24/7. Um, I know obviously you picked the cybersecurity world to get into, which is you grow up into it. It's the right industry. Look at today, what's going on with cyber. So you've got a great experience. Did you learn anything with following him around for a year with your camera?
Oh, first of all, I learned from him every day because I
Mm,
was around him, especially in the beginning when the company was small. When the
mm,
company became 400 people, it was a bit different. But yes, I learned a lot about focus, about understanding that sometimes you have to let go on everything else. So this is the racing time. This is the go
mm,
time. You cancel everything. You remove all the distractions because you have a half an hour of execution. Actually, it was 35 minutes in this case, and you cannot think about anything else. So there's sometimes time to multitask, but sometimes be uber focus and just do one thing very, very well and remove all the abstractions. There was an unfortunate incident I remember when I had a radio to listen, and there was an issue with the radio. And then when he finished the race, he's like, guys, I don't need too many radios because I don't want any other interference because interfering me. So I need a radio silence on a channel because if you guys talking and I listen to this, it's mean I cannot be focused on driving 250 kilometers an hour. I'm
okay.
like, okay, lesson learned. We're not talking, we're listening, or we're just not doing anything until he says something or there's something to tell him, not just chit chatting while he's driving.
That's right. I mean, you know what? I didn't even know he was a race car driver. So it's I guess I don't follow him enough. I just see him on Shark Tank and the TV shows and once in a while. But wow, that's I learned something
I'm gonna
there.
flip you a picture later on because one of the pictures I took, we printed
Mm-hmm.
in aluminum in 4 by 6 feet. That
Mm-hmm.
was in his office for 6 years,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like pride of me. That is such a big picture. And then we do office renovation, and I was leaving. I was like, "Can I have the picture?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." So now my sister basement has a humongous picture on the entire wall.
Take a pic of the pick and send, my friend. Wow. So I mean, you've been through the process. You've gone from beginning to learning from some of the best in the industry, and obviously, Herzvik and the whole organization is an example of beacon, right, in the cybersecurity business. And at the end of the day, it's cyber is great, but also making the case today, the CISO job, if we can maybe start there. And by the way, the whole topic of this issue is going to be talking about the software architecture from, I mean, the company that we're talking to at Everything's security consulting, right? And so you'll get a lot more information in the links below as we move forward. But when we look at the job of a CISO today, it's not easy. It started off by, you go and do some, protection, protect some computers and networks and some firewall thingies, right? To today, where you're talking about, wait a minute, we got to get it into the development of the products to make sure we can actually scale in digital transformation. We've got everybody's working from everywhere, right? We've got to reduce our risk footprint. We have a challenge with insurance over here, so you gotta do that too. It just seems like you gotta be able to communicate and make the case as to why cybersecurity is valuable to the company. Like, what is the value for
You're just
cyber?
bringing this part. You basically, what you just say is there's kind of a big debate right now. Is the CISO very technical, or the CISO is business oriented? Because he needs to bring the business. So one part that I think is a bit blocking in the industry in general, many practitioners coming to the security leaders and says, we need this antivirus, we need this firewall, we need this cloud security, we need blah. And they're not always going and understanding what the business need, not what you need. Like, what is the business need? So as a stupid example, let's say I'm a bank, and my view as a business, I want to create a branch without people, automated branch.
Right.
If I'm a security practitioner, if I'm a CISO in a bank, and I fail to understand that the bank goal in 5 years is to create a branch without people, then I don't need to go and secure the branch with people. I need to understand how I'm going to secure the branch without people. Or if Amazon wants to create a store, or not Amazon, doesn't matter who it is, without people, with automated checkout, then I need to shift my focus to understand where the business needs to go. How do I understand what business need to protect? What will bring the business down? What will prevent the business to make money? And then shift my security controls there. And then explain to people, or if you not deploy this antivirus, for example, then if you get a malware, you're going to lose ability to work. And if you lose ability to work, you're going to lose X amount of money a day. Now become business talk and not just security talk. And this is what's some of the things that I learned along the ways to shift my conversation from just a technical perspective to the business value. And it's not easy, because how do you explain to someone why do you need to have a database monitoring or API monitoring or some kind of amazing new tools that going to monitor emails?
Yeah,
And there's tons of them right now. We have more than 4,000 vendors.
it is mind-boggling. I mean, let's just put ourselves in a boardroom. You got all the C-suites there, and one of the C-suites, let's say, is a CISO there, right? And the conversation is about, all these things we can do to layer on protection, protect our business. But you and I both know the CEOs and the other folks and the CFOs, they don't really understand the depths, right, of why these things matter. So, a CISO would say, okay, we need to do this, right, because it's going to protect our website from going down and getting hit. As a simple example. But then, the CEO says, well, our website hasn't gone down in years. Like, why would we want to spend the money on this? Like, what's going to happen there? Like, what's the real problem? What's my downside? And what's my upside of doing this or not doing it? And I think we'll all agree that there's not unlimited budgets to do everything, and businesses have to be run on based upon their goals and where the company is headed, and they need to spread the money around, right? Whether it's in development or products or marketing or sales or communication, whatever that is. And cyber protection, IT is one of those budgets. And the challenge is, how do you allocate these budgets based upon risks and the appetite, if you will, for risk? So if you were to parachute into a boardroom, right, and you've got a bunch of us C-suite folks,
Yes.
what do you do?
So there's a couple of things. I think, as funny as it is, what is the most history known profession? Is storytelling. We know from ancient days we had stories on the walls, on the stones. So as an individual, as a leader individual, you need to do storytelling. What does it mean? You need to tell a story that the person you're telling the story will understand. If you tell a story to a 5 years old, you're going to use different language. If you tell a story to a C-level person that understands security, you need to translate and move it, do an analogy in what he will understand. So if it's a CFO, you may have an analogy from a finance world or from somebody else. I always like to take stuff in a personal level, quote unquote. What I mean by this,
Mm.
hey, let's look on your house. So, for example, you have a house and you have this protection on your house. Yes. Do you have a cottage? I have a cottage. What do you do on your cottage? Like nothing. It's a cottage. Nothing ever happens there. But you do this in the house. Why? Here is an example of other cottages in the area that had XYZ happen with them. So we kind of bring in an analogy back to what they know. Okay, let's understand what you have. If you need to protect your house, and you need to change the windows. You need to count how many windows you have.
Yes.
Similar to the company. If you want to protect your company, you understand what are you protecting the company, what kind of assets, what kind of locations you have, what is the data there. Okay, maybe one room is more important because it's the office room. And in the office room, you have a safe potentially with all your documents and all the jewelry. Or maybe it's a walk-in clothes with all the jewelry. So you're probably going to think more, okay, walk-in clothes is where's my wife or my husband jewelry located and all the expensive watches. So we're going to have more stuff there. So this is what we understand because this is what we do at our home. Maybe it's a weapons that we have because you like hunting. So you translate this language to the language they understand and they do day by day. So this is one part. But what I mentioned here as well, I actually went in the house and I did a gap analysis. I count the windows, I count the jewelry, I understand what are the valuables I have in the house. Because I don't have weapons, I don't like hunting. It's me. I have canoes and kayaks and expensive motorcycles and bikes. You may have something else. So everybody gonna have different things. While doing gap analysis, understanding in the business what they have, this is the data I will bring to the C-level people, the guys we did an analogy, sorry, we did a gap analysis in the company. We understand this is the more important parts in the company going to prevent businesses. Let's take Rogers, for example, or Bell,
Mm.
hotels. If they cannot serve customers and the network is down, they cannot make money. So everything related to the infrastructure will be important for them to make money. This way, I can explain to them where we can allocate the money. The other things we should do is we have pen testing. We have
Mm.
other tests of the environment where we can find more gaps or more issues or more examples to show we did this particular test where we can show to you where we're vulnerable, where we have a risk, and why it's important. Besides this, we can say other companies in your area, banks, finance, infrastructure, had these problems. We want to make sure it's not happening to you. So there is different rules and ways to do it.
It's a really great analogy, and I heard it before where you look at the security of your company, the way you secure a home, and you certainly won't leave your front door open. You at least lock it, and you certainly don't leave windows open, right? At least you close it down, at least at night. But it depends on your neighborhood, and it depends on what you've got and the valuables that you've got in your house, and you've got to adjust, right, your security based on the risk that you want to take. So it's a really great way to kind of scale it down and scale it towards so that the actual people you're speaking to kind of understand, in their
Mhm.
terms, what this means. Because I find a lot of CISOs and very highly technical, smart people, they talk over people. You don't quite know what they're talking about, right? And I get it, if you scale and understand that language, but that's a different language, right? That's maybe like back office language type thing, right? But you got to be able basically to articulate and explain the risk and rewards in a way that they can go, well, you know what? I think that's worth investing money, right? Because I don't want that to happen to us, right? Um, are you finding just in your own anecdotal type message, are you seeing that CISOs are there, getting there, not there? What are you seeing?
I see CISO definitely understand that they need to understand the technical capabilities, but their magic skills is to convert the technical capabilities to business or to simple language.
mm,
I believe that as a CISO, you don't have to know everything.
mm,
You don't need to be very technical. You need to have leaders that are going to be very technical, that they will explain to you. You will know enough to understand what they're talking about.
mm,
You understand what's a firewall and how it's operate, but you don't need to understand all the nuances and all the protocols inside out.
mm,
Oh, and you will take and you will ask the questions. You will able to kind of almost like a filter. You have like a different levels, and
mm,
you will bring the important part to the people. If you take an analogy, for example, the C-level person wants the company to work and operate to be secure. We go VP level, okay, they want it to be operate and be secure, but they also understand potentially where is the budget going to be allocated. We took level down. Okay, the director probably want to know which vendor we're using to do this. The
mm,
guys that below this, the manager, the technician, want to understand not just the vendor, but which feature are enabled and what's the login is working. So basically, you have a different way of resolution, what everybody wants to see on the higher level. So the CISO is the person that need to take this information, change the language, understand it, and present it up to the board levels. And people understand this right now. There's a lot of talk on
mm,
LinkedIn, a lot of talk in the communities about how CISOs need to change, even to the point that some people claim they're going to have a business CISO and a technical CISO. I
mm.
think the technical CISO is it's an architect in my mind. This is
Yeah.
the work of SAs, a security architect, or basically I found just slip my mind of different definition of FSSA. Oh, sorry,
Mm,
EA, enterprise architect. So we have a definition of enterprise architect, and
mm,
they're the ones that's supposed to be the more technical people in my mind. They can support the CISO with all the nuances of how stuff to be need to be working. But there's also a big difference in the way we communicate. I
mm,
maybe know what I want to say, but if I'm talking to you and I'm so Julian, so we have a lot of firewalls, and we it's like, what, Evgeny? What are you talking about? So is the entire idea, can you be calm? Can you relax? Can you speak clearly? Can you not have like every second word? Yes, you can. It's a skill we can teach. It's a skill we can learn. I learned it, you learn it, we all can learn it. Why? Because we want to become a better communicator. We want to explain the stuff in a way that will understand to us. I have 3 kids. The way I talk to my kids is different than I talk to my friends. Why? Because I can slow down. I'll wait for them to reply. I know they're impatient. I know I need to say 2 sentences and wait. Why? Just because it's different. That's it.
it's a skill that I think it's I mean, I just want to say that it's important in any job you do, because if you can't communicate and articulate properly, then you're at the disadvantage, right? Um, Sometimes I wonder why our universities and schools don't teach this as a basic, fundamental thing. But well, that's for another conversation. Um,
Oh, you know what? My son is 10 and envy to him because I gave him like 3 pages to read and he
mhm.
read everything. I'm like, dude, like I wish at age of 10, I will read as clearly and as nicely as you are.
Oh, there you go. Well, hey, things are changing as well. So let's just drop a simple example, right? So we're in this boardroom, and you've got to explain one thing. We've got applications we're baking out using for the company to do all sorts of things, and that's a cyber threat, right? That's a problem, right? So how do you explain this to a CEO?
You explain to the CEO, we just roll new application. In the past, there was less factor of security. Security was like an add-on, almost like a duct tape. Nobody cares about it. It was like an add-on of expense. Right now, you say, Mr. CEO, if we don't have compliance, if we don't have SOC 2, if we don't have all the checks, we will not able to sell. One, why? People gonna go on our website and will understand how secure is my data, how
Mm,
secure is the application, especially when you understand what kind of data this
mm,
application will have. Maybe you're going to have my personal information or my kid or something else. If this application is designed to work with B2B, business to business, for example, then the other side will ask, hey, again, you guys build this amazing application. How do you guys secure it? Show me you guys did the good development. Show me you have a hygiene in the way you push the code. Show me XYZ. Why? Because the other company have what we call third party or third-party vendor management, and they want to assess how well we build what we build. Same way where, companies build cars and then test the cars, how they crash, and many different things, because it's shown to the public what they did to make sure it's safe. So this is the way I'll explain to the CEO that certain thing is nice to have, but right now, not anymore. We have to, first of all, do security by design, not just kind of slap something on top. So we need to start it and put it in the budget. Second, we'll need to have all the tools to show to customers and user customers and to the business people as well how we secure and why we secure.
Evgeniy, it's a great thing, man, to be able to articulate, complex issues, because the number one knee jerk reaction, right, that the C folks have is like, hey, we've been doing this now for the last umpteen years and nothing's really happened. But they also need to understand that cyber is a moving target, right? And with new things like AI, it's just going to get a little bit worse.
And faster.
And faster. So you might have been lucky. You may have dodged a bullet in the past. So congratulations. It reminds me of the person that parks their car, on their street in their house for years and never got a ticket, even though you're not supposed to park after midnight, right? And then one day gets up and he gets this ticket, and he goes, "Oh my God, I got to spend, I don't know, $100 for this ticket." And he goes to the court and go, "I've been parking there for years and I never got a ticket." Well, sir, you're lucky you didn't get a ticket for the last years, but it doesn't. It's just they haven't gotten to you yet. That's really what it really comes down to, right? It's a big world out there. So what was best practice, and I use that in quotes, in the past, is not necessarily best practice tomorrow. And things are changing, and I think AI is gonna speed that up, as you said. So we got to reassess this whole game. So let's double click a little bit and look at the architecture of cybersecurity. How do we demystify cybersecurity? I mean, look, every company has heard by now that cybersecurity is a thing. They've heard ransomware. They've seen a couple of thousand stories about organizations getting hit by ransomware. They've heard attackers are pretty smart. They heard about they can lock up your data. They've heard that they can release your data. They've heard all the nightmare stories, right? So that sort of picture is painted, right? But how would you demystify cybersecurity to a company who may understand all that, but they haven't prioritized it to a level that they should?
There is two things, and there's definitely different approaches. So again, I cannot say mine is the correct one. It's just the one I like, and I think the one work for me. So what I mean two things. We have the corporate security. So let's take, go back to the bank or the insurance company, for example. The insurance company has a portal and has their own application. This application is serving the end users, but it also has a corporate security. It's all the people that are working in the company. So sending emails to each other, personal laptops, maybe some servers inside. So I like to separate between two, because one is I need to protect the people in the company, and I need to protect the company from the same people as well, because these people may download stuff, put stuff in the USB keys. So this is one part. But then I have the application where it serves the end user, and the controls and the security architecture are going to be different. Like, for example, if I have a portal where people need to log in and do certain things, check their benefits, insurance coverage, I need to protect it from a DDoS attack, for example, so that nobody will able to DDoS it, have denial of service on this particular infrastructure to break it down. I may also have some kind of a WAF, web application firewall, to protect it from people doing malicious stuff and changing stuff. We heard about bots and API. So there is like a security stack of tools that I will use for application. Same, because I'm doing development on the application, everything related to application security, AppSec, is going to be under this umbrella. We're writing code. We want to make sure there's no vulnerabilities there. We want to make sure we don't put in any passwords inside our code and many different things. But there's almost like a bit of a difference in the boundary between corporate security and the security related to application we're building. There's of course similarity, because if I have a server there, I'm going to have an antivirus on both sides. But beside this, there is no email security, because there's an application doesn't have, in a way, doesn't have an email, for example.
Mhm.
So I like to approach and say to people, okay, let's understand, what are we securing? Do you have a development team? Are you developing your own application? If you don't, then you're only talking about here. Let's say you're in a marketing company. You have a lot of people in marketing, but you don't really have an application. You don't have really, your website is just very, very small, and it's all people doing services. So the way we're going to protect it is going to be different. Then they'll understand, where are you located? Are you in one geographical region, or you're in many different locations? Because you may have a lot of different offices. So you want to understand how you're going to connect the data and protect the data between themselves. So explaining to people what they have, understanding what they have, putting it on the whiteboard, giving an example of different attacks on what can potentially bring them down. You mentioned ransomware before. So if you have a different office's location, and let's say one office gets ransomware, does it mean that everybody else is supposed to have ransomware because lateral movement? Or maybe we have a way to protect and contain the outbreak in one point, and then we're able to remediate, fix it, and let the company run. So there is different examples and different architecture styles where we can show the customer how we're going to protect them. We have a lot of idea about SaaS, basically software as a service, but the security tools also run there, like SASE, Secure Access Service Edge, is okay. We're gonna have firewalls or security web
Mm.
gateways, but they run everywhere. It doesn't matter where you are, we're going to protect you. You need to securely connect to my organization. I'm going to give you a way to securely connect to my organization without exposure. There's a lot of scenarios, and they're going to be based on the company. So I cannot say, here's a footprint or blueprint, sorry, and this is what you need to do. There could be 5, 8 different blueprints that will be serving different companies, how they're going to protect them. But not unlimited. No, there's like number of them that will apply to the majority of the customers. And then the rest of them are going to be very, very customizable.
I mean, at the end of the day, right, this is not something that you just pull out of a box, right? It's not a ready-made situation, right? A lot of companies are baking in a lot of AI to sort of automate a lot of things, so you can remove the the redundancy component and the frustration part, quite frankly, right? Of seeing all these false positives, right, and then trying to go through each of them and being very, very burnt out, so to speak, at the end. So there's a lot of additional things that you bake in, obviously, in the cybersecurity, and when you build an architecture of a company. So you do need some kind of expertise. This is not something you can just bake out on your own. But when you approach cybersecurity in general, um, you've got it's obviously there's a lot of questions, right, that you need to get answered before you even figure out what kind of cybersecurity protection that they need. So it's not like, oh, well, you've got this, here's these 3 things you should be doing. But
Bring in a very interesting point,
Mhm.
because if I come to you and I give you, Julian, here's 50 questions, answer all of them, he's like, what do you want from me, Evgeniy? You don't have time for that. You're not going to answer anything. So now we're going to consulting and professional consulting. How do I ask you questions? Do I do it over email? Do I spend time one-on-one with you? And I ask you questions in the way you want to talk to me. Open, close questions? No. So basically, open questions, a closed question. Julian, do you like green or blue color?
Mm.
Or Julian, what kind of color you prefer? So there's different ways to ask question to let the customer open up. Hey guys, do you use firewall? Yes. Can you elaborate and explain what kind of firewall you guys using? Can you go deeper on this part? I didn't understand this particular part. So there's a way to ask questions to be polite and nice, going
Mm.
back to conversation
Mm.
skills, to actually get this information in the way people want to talk to you, and not going to be annoyed in you after like 15 questions. Because when somebody come, we need to do an audit, and like, do you have this? Do you have that? Do you have that? Do you have that? It's like, this is annoying. I hate this. I don't want to be here.
It's like an interrogation. It's You don't want to do that for sure. So I mean, this is obviously just one episode, right? We're going to be doing a lot more to sort of paint the bigger picture. There's no way we can. It's like boiling the ocean when you talk about cyber. Um, but fundamentals, right? We get a. I hear a lot about the basics. We're still not doing the basics, and the basics is actually going to improve their game, very quickly. Yet we're not doing the basics. I don't want to get into the human psychology of why that's not happening, but I just think it's just
It's
like,
boring. It's not sexy.
yeah, it's like, man, I don't want to, have a password this long, and I don't want to have like 14 different, prompts about whatever. So it has a lot to do with simplicity, convenience. I think in this world, we give up a lot of security and privacy for convenience. And I think that's maybe the bad word of the century. You get convenience, but you got to give up this, and this, and things like this. When you look at the basics, right? I just want to, for the record, right? What should everybody do, period, no matter what, if they're listening to this podcast, if they maybe haven't done it already?
If you hear me speaking before, the basic stuff is asset management. Understand what you have, because if you don't know what you have, you cannot protect it. This could be laptops, this could be software, this could be devices, this could be people, could be many different things. I think the fundamental part is understanding asset management.
I want to double click on this one, because people go, yeah, oh, we generally know what we got in our office and so on, and they think they know, right? But then when you do an assessment, right, a proper gap analysis, right, what does the data show? Like what does it come back with? And they go, wow, I
40%
didn't.
difference of what you were thinking you have and what you actually have.
I mean, the numbers are staggering. Some people don't know half of the actual apps that's plugged into their system. They didn't even know they had 30-40% of the devices that was plugged into their network. They didn't know that, servers that was discontinued is still being accessed. I mean, when you really do a decent assessment of what you've got in-house and, remotely, now it even gets more complex. I think everybody in the company is surprised when they see what they have actually compared to what they thought they have. And it's always never less. It's always more. And then the question is, it's a lot more usually, right? Than they ever expected, right?
And in cloud, it's even harder because you may have, let's call them devices, but component of serverless or something else are going to spun out for like seconds and go down. What do you do with them?
Yeah. And even going back to your analogy with the house, you might have like another 50 windows that you haven't even accounted for, that is open, and not even locked. So, it's you cannot underestimate the fact that you cannot protect what you cannot see, and you don't know what you don't know. And if you assume, there's that little thing, if you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. I think we could say that. The reality, though, is that you really need to know what's going on. And then once you've got that done, at least you know the scope of the problem, right? Then the next step is, basic things like two-factor and so on that people continue to not to do, and using the same passwords for the same, multiple things and so on. I mean, you got to get with the program. There's something we used to do a decade ago, and there's some things we just can't do today. So I would suggest that they Google or whatever to understand the top 10 things that you need to do as a human. I also want to get to a point where people who work for companies somehow thinks that security is only an issue with the company, right? Talk a bit about how security is impacting, the actual employees of a company.
I firmly believe security is everybody's responsibility. It's the same idea. You're not going to bring poison back to the office because
Yeah,
it's poison, and we know this, is that you don't need to bring unidentified USB keys to the
yeah,
office
yeah,
or devices that are not belonging to the office. And I'm not saying as an employee, you need to be responsible for everything in security, but you need to be responsible for your part, what
Yeah.
the things you need to do. So it's basic hygiene, is basic understanding. As you mentioned, don't use your work password for you pay Facebook, for example,
Yeah.
and as simple as it is. And you want to understand because at the end of the day, if you screwed up, excuse my French, in work, you may lose the job. So why would you not spend not a lot of time? It's a bit of time to understand what to do, what not to do, ask questions, go to people and say, guys, I don't understand what I'm supposed to be doing here. I know
Yeah.
you guys supposed to do like a spam test, and I think I click on this, but can you explain to me why I click on this and what I need to learn in the future? Predictively, my God, proactively go and ask people what to do, then you're going to become smarter. Like if you're going to go work with woodworking, would you just go and operate every machine without understanding how they cut?
Mhm.
Yeah, no, you probably will understand. You don't know to cut your fingers and your hands.
You make a good point. You don't want to bring poison to the office, but you don't also want to take poison back to your home,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, you got kids and you got people using the same networks, and you're banking your personal banking, so you could be taking bad stuff back if you don't have a good, cybersecurity hygiene. You know, it's one of those industries, right? One of those things, cyber, that it just impacts you in ways that as I think as humans we haven't really digested yet. Like, how can one thing, cyber security, impact almost every aspect of my life? And it kind of does, doesn't it? Even your car now, right?
It does. And every time AWS went down, we saw how just randomly half of the stuff we used to work with not working. So one vendor, one location, I'm not going to go to details right now, went down. And then suddenly games, my apps for finance and other stuff that just stopped working.
It is mind-boggling. Couple of things as we wrap up here, though, and our first segment, and then we'll do more of these things to kind of go a little bit deeper and get into the weeds as we go forward. Um, when you look at cyber in general, what worries you at night? What keeps you awake at night when you think about cybersecurity for a company or for yourself, or what's the thing that keeps you up?
It's a good question because there's a number of stuff. I so this I'm not gonna go very long because there's many different things. One part that kind of close to my heart and it's bugging me is SMB, small medium businesses. I don't think I'm kind of sure they don't have enough security or just understanding what they need to protect. And it is all the folks like the dentists, the mechanics, the beauty salons in a
Yeah.
way, our accounting people, they have our information. They know everything about us.
Yes.
They don't have the protection, the skills, and sometimes the understanding how to protect themselves. So this is one part that I really wish can be done better, and we can have a way to support them because there's many ideas in my mind what can be done there potentially on the government level as well. And the second part for the enterprise is cloud security. Cloud security is so fast, is so changing all the time. And the way we protect cloud security is a bit different than on-prem because stuff there change all the time. So we need to constantly monitor, constantly check. And many companies move stuff to a cloud or open stuff in the cloud because it's cheaper, faster, and not spending the time to understand what's the impact, what's the security controls, what's the monitoring system we need to have.
Yeah, I echo those things, and in the SMB community as well. As a matter of fact, we're connected doing the cybersecurity defense ecosystem that you're a part of in our mission to sort of like put a dent in this. And the challenge, of course, is that it is expensive. Cybersecurity is expensive, right? It's not easy. It's complicated. Not everybody can do it in house. There's big debates upon what you should do in house, what you should build, what you should outsource, and so on. And as you zoom out on this, you get into the issues with threat hunting and pen testing,
So many different things.
and the more complicated stuff, 24/7 monitoring, and yeah, maybe some AI is going to help that to some degree, right? But the bad guys are using AI as well, so that we'll see how that pans out, right? But there are things, right, that you just cannot do in house, and compliance and regulations. I'm going to kind of like wrap it up with this last part. You've got these gaping holes around your security, your challenges, et cetera, et cetera. But now there are, rules and regulations that's coming into play, that is going to make you, do it, right? And if you don't do it, you're going to have some serious consequences, fines, and so on. It was like in the past, the worst that could happen is like oopsie doopsie, I can, quietly fix a problem, et cetera, et cetera. But then the social media aspects come in, the news media picks up pretty quick. So that could give a big dent on your brand and your credibility. But then now the third wave, compliance, privacy regulations, things are coming in. So the trend seems to be that we're moving along this journey of like, as we move closer to this, end game, is that the rules and regulations and the outcomes are going to be pretty harsh, right? If you don't do these things, right, we're starting to see some companies, some CISOs actually getting hit with the law and even in the criminal area as well, because these things are starting to impact companies a lot bigger and bigger as we move forward. So what's your take on, if we don't get this right, the governments and regulations is going to ensure we get it right, and I include as well governments and insurance companies as well in that
I think
regulatory
like in
format.
everything we say in the cyber, it depends. So first of all, when we have regulations, now company, it's and as I explained to the C-level why we need to do it, because we
Right.
need to be regulated or compliant. So it's good. In some cases, sometimes there are like too many things they want. Like, oh my God, this is too much. So I like that we have it, but there should be a mechanism to also scale it down or have the end user, the C-level people, the CISOs, to explain and kind of monitor this every year to explain what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. Because sometimes it's too much and it's not helping anyone.
So do you think regulations need to be regulated?
It's not just regulated. Regulations supposed to have, or maybe almost a way for them to take almost like a pulse, a questionnaire from people to say, guys, what worked, what didn't work, what was too much? Because if right now I need to spend majority of my time just to fill the checkbox in the regulation, so I'm not doing my work. What's the point for me? And I'm an expensive resource. So regulation is supposed to help, not to prevent and handicap my work.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a two-edged sword there, because
Yeah.
I think we're there. I mean, that's what it is right now, and these days reporting is coming into the game as well. You've got to
Yeah.
report very, very quickly. To wrap this up, though, we need to talk at least a little bit about AI, because 2023 was all about AI,
Oh yeah.
the new flavor of AI. Pros and cons. How do you see AI helping the cyber world, and how do you see AI, hurting the cyber protection game?
I'll start from the hurting part.
Okay.
The hurting part is too many companies jump on the idea that my tool is magical because it has AI.
Mm.
So it basically created, if I'm saying I'm busy, 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 and every time that I'm not doing anything because I'm doing busy everywhere. So the same here. Right now, every tool says we use AI, we use this, we use that. So it basically removed the importance and the significant value of AI because everybody claims they use this. But to understand how well they use it, if they use it appropriately, it's a different skill level. Not every customer will understand. So it's a bit overused. and not everywhere it need to be used. In my mind, AI is an amazing tool to sifting in information and understanding and find abnormalities, but we don't need it everywhere in every tool. So this is the bad part. It's just too much to everywhere and too many tools. Like we have so many tools that taking notes, writing that, doing this, and the other part, we don't know what these tools are using with our data. So if I put my resume in a tool with all my information, how do I know how this resume is going to be used? If I put a piece of code that I'm writing for you, for example, do I now own this piece of code, or now this tool has ownership of this code and I can no longer claim I have a patent on this code, for example, or I can claim it's mine. The good part, I can speed up things. I can take notes from this call. I take a summary from this call. If you later on want to take shorts and create some kind of audiograms and small things from this recording, you don't need to sit down and listen for an hour. You can probably tell the AI, transcribe the information, understand the Evgeniy accent, put short things, and tell me what's cool was about that. So it will take you 15 minutes versus potentially 2 hours. You now have an encyclopedia there that will not just use Google search and who paid more, and you will able to use it more. The searching, the way we search, the way we understand, the way we doing research is changing and become much more faster. So there are so many different applications. You can create images for your blogs in a matter of seconds, or for your articles, or for your books, or whatever it is. So it's really, really interesting to understand what you can do, what you cannot do. And if you don't have enough time to understand the capabilities and what you can do as well. So there's a kind of another drawback, because there are so many cool things that you potentially want to dive in and understand that just not enough time in a day.
We're entering the new world. It's a new era, of AI. And honestly, it's like you're walking into a candy store and you're looking around and wow. I mean, I didn't know all this stuff could be done. But you're eating, you're snapping it up, you're tasting it up, and sometimes it doesn't taste.
This is good analogy, because if you have too much of those, now you're gonna have a stomachache,
you get sick or diabetes, so don't do it. Yeah. So we're gonna bring more of this. I think we need to bring the world of cybersecurity from a complex world to a simplified world, and make people sort of understand that we're all part of this game, this new game.
And we're all part of this game. We all need to contribute.
We have to contribute in it, and whatever you bring to the office, you can also bring home. Think of it as a pandemic virus, man. You can take it to the office, but you can also bring it home. And also think about all your kids and everybody in the home can bring stuff into the home too. It is a challenge, but you know what? This is the modern challenge of a modern day world, and I'm excited to be part of that in a tiny way to kind of help that happen. So if anybody out there wants to learn more, check out my friend, and we'll put all the links below, and we'll figure out how to help you if you need help. And if you can help, let us know. Join the party in the revolution. We'll put links again to reach out to everybody. Evgeniy, it's been a pleasure as usual, right? And keep us posted on what's happening. And until the next episode, I shall see you. Cheers.
Thank you very much.